Has there ever been a time where you were a Karen? Oh boy, am I about to expose myself? So I think something that all of us know is that nobody's perfect. I have definitely had my moments where I was far from perfect, and well, immediately the first one that comes to mind to me is one from years ago when I was working at my parents' Subway. I was working in the afternoon one day, like 6 years ago, and I had a guy come into the store that ordered his sandwich, and he wanted to get a water cup. And so our water cups at the Subway are smaller than like the normal traditional cups, and he really wanted to get like the biggest cup. I think it was like a 40 ounce just to fill it up with water so that he could have it on the drive. I think he was taking a road trip or something, but I don't know why I was so adamant about him taking the water cup. Like, in hindsight, I should have just given him the 40 ounce cup, but I said no. I said you have to use the water cup or you have to buy like a smaller size. And that guy was so mad at me. And I remember like literally right after that happened, in my mind I was kind of like, why did I do that? Like, that was something stupid. But you know, we learn from those moments. I think literally every single person on earth has had moments when they've been a Karen. Maybe not to the degree of like others. Like, there's definitely people that like go off the deep end. Something I've also noticed is that people tend to be a lot more Karen-like in situations like being on an airplane or like waiting in some form of like any minor discomfort for humans. For some reason, it brings out all of our inner Karens. I don't know. I definitely have a couple other stories where I've been a Karen, and if you guys want to hear them, let me know. Milad, what do you think of the trend of people abusing fast food workers for clout? So recently I've been seeing a huge uptick in videos on TikTok and X and just these other social media platforms where people will go to, say, a Chipotle and they'll make the most annoying order possible and then just walk out and leave after they ordered whatever they got without paying. And that, along with multiple other videos of people just like basically abusing fast food workers. And you know, like, some of them are genuinely funny. Like, I saw a video where somebody made like a silly joke and then they obviously paid for their food afterwards and left a tip for the fast food worker, but then some of them are just completely outrageous. One of the specific ones that I'm thinking of was that there was a guy that literally walked into a Chipotle, asked for his entire bowl to be made, and because they didn't put enough chicken on his bowl, he walked out of the store without paying and like started cursing at the people. I mean, these are like fast food workers. Like, these aren't animals, and there's a lot of people that will do anything for clout and for views, and it's kind of sad, honestly. I mean, personally, I think that if you're making like a fun, silly video, then it's quite all right. Like, if nobody's getting hurt and you're not actually like getting the business to be hurt in any way by like wasting food or just like putting a worker in a really awkward and uncomfortable situation, then yeah, go ahead, film your TikTok, film your video. But when you're just like bothering people that are working their 9 to 5, like, come on, man, get a hobby. Like, you should go get a job. Like, stop harassing these Chipotle workers. Have you ever had to deal with a little kid when you work? So yeah, while I was working at the Subway, we had little kids coming in all the time. I think the craziest I've ever seen is a little kid that was maybe like 4 years old coming in by himself, and he just wanted a cookie, and then he like walked out by himself, and I was like, where are your parents? Like, what is going on right now? It was extremely adorable, I'm not gonna lie, but I was mildly concerned. But literally every single day we have like very young kids coming into the store and getting sandwiches, and you wouldn't believe some of the combinations that these kids get creative, let me tell you. I mean, you'll see like the usual stuff, like them putting chips on their sandwich or like asking for just a cheese sub, but I'm not gonna lie, there's been some kids that have put me on to some pretty good sandwiches. Like, they really know what they're doing. I have a question, Milad. So how would you handle a rude customer saying curse words at you and won't pay for their sub? You know, this has happened to me before. I think it's happened to most people that have worked in fast food, for being honest. It's just a part of like any job. Honestly, it's a part of life. You're just gonna deal with rude people. Like, anywhere you go, you could have everything in the world and you're still gonna have to deal with rude people at some point or another. One story I could think of is when a rude person came in, they like ordered their sandwich, and then we got to checkout and they were being helped by my coworker and it was too much for them, and well, she sort of let them have it. And I think my coworker did the complete right thing. He said to her, like, hey, if you don't want the sandwich, it's okay. Like, you don't have to get this. Like, I'll put it in the back. I'll put it in the fridge. Like, if it's too much for you, I understand. And she didn't stop. She like kept going. And at some point I had to step in and kind of be like, hey, like, I'm really sorry that like whatever's going on today, like, clearly maybe you're having a bad day. Maybe it's like tough times, but you can't really like yell and curse at us. Like, we got a job to do. We have to like move on to the next customer in line. Like, if it's too much for you, we can like split the sandwich in half and give you half of it, or like just take out like any of the chips or whatever else you ordered. Like, but yeah, she ultimately just like walked out of the store and didn't get anything. But that's usually the way that it goes. Like, I think the best way to combat somebody that's like being very rude or negative, or just like a customer that's not giving any constructive feedback and just like negative feedback, is just like be nice to them, try to hear them out and like understand them. And you know, like, sometimes genuinely people are just having a really bad day, and you can like honestly brighten their mood pretty easily by just like trying to understand them and be like nice. But of course, sometimes if like somebody's just like going off the deep end and they're screaming their lungs out and just like letting you have it, like, you should not just stand there and take that. Like, that's not okay. Every situation is just going to be different. Like, there's no one size fits all answer. But if you ever have to deal with a rude customer at a store, store, like I just urge you to be kind of like just like mindful that being kind can go a long way. And I've seen it happen where like somebody comes in with a terrible attitude, and like I just ask them like, how's your day, and like try to be like accommodating, and it seems like their mood literally like turns full 180 by the end of the sandwich being made. It's pretty crazy the effect you could have on other people, you know? What's the most wholesome interaction you've ever had or witnessed? You know, it's funny, while I was at the Subway working, I actually had a number of very, very wholesome interactions, especially after I started making videos. There's two that immediately come to mind. The first one, it's pretty simple, but it was like within the first 3 months of me making content online, I had somebody that came in he was like maybe 12 years old, 13 years old, and he was a boy that told me how much that he loved my videos, and he brought me a gift. Now that in and of itself was so wholesome, like bringing me a gift, being a Subway worker, just like working my shift. I had so many people that would bring random gifts. Like I had somebody bring high chews once. I had somebody bring me like a whole box of like candies from their origin country. It's just such a wholesome thing. But this kid in particular, he brought me a Pokemon card, and this was about like 2.5, 3 years ago, and I still have this card to this day. It was a Lucario card, and the kid told me that it was one of the first cards that he ever had from Pokemon, and he wanted me to have it. And like in that moment, I was like, oh my god, this is like such a wholesome moment. Like, thank you, child. I'm not deserving of this Pokemon card, but I will use it for the greatest good possible. And I actually kept that card in my phone case for like maybe a year or two afterwards, just as like a reminder of like, you know, be humble and just keep trying to make people happy. And that kid told the story to me about how like my videos really helped him cheer up one day when he was having a bad day, and that tugged at the heartstrings, I'm not gonna lie. And the second really wholesome story that I'm thinking about was, well, it was a little out of the ordinary for me at the Subway, but I was working one afternoon and I had a line that was pretty big, and on the line I had this guy that came in that he looked a little ruffled up, I'm not gonna lie. And well, when it was his turn to order, he ordered like a very basic 6-inch sandwich, and when we finally got to checking out and like where he actually gives me the cash, he basically was ruffling around his bag. And when this happens, I usually know that the customer doesn't have enough money to pay for their meal. Whenever that happens, I like to just let them go. Like I know that it's kind of like frowned upon for some people, and if it's somebody that's like trying to take advantage of us and they just keep coming back like day after day wanting a free sandwich, like I'm not gonna let them get a free sandwich every day because that would hurt us. But if it's somebody that's like down on their luck and they're just looking for a meal for the day, I usually will. And I don't think there's ever been a moment where I kind of like turn somebody away unless they stole from me. There was one guy that stole from me and I said, you can't have that, I'm sorry. But yeah, if anybody is ever open to asking for help, I always want to reach out a hand and be a good human and help them out. But in this particular case, he was looking around for the money and there was a big line, and I could kind of see that he was a little embarrassed looking throughout his bag. And without even like a step, before I could even like open my mouth and say, you know what, it's fine, man, like you can go, the guy behind him in line steps up and says, I got your meal today, buddy, don't worry about it. And well, the guy that had the sandwich was literally so happy that he started tap dancing in the store at like 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. He was hugging the guy saying, thank you so much, like you're the man, like you're the best. I was honestly taken aback by the action of this guy. It was really wholesome. I mean, just helping a stranger for no reason, like he wouldn't gain anything from that situation, obviously. It makes you almost bring a tear to the eye. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a comment and let's have a conversation in the comment section. I really enjoy reading your guys' comments. I read every single one of them, so please give me some questions, some feedback, anything you want to comment. I'll probably read and respond to a bunch of you guys. Thank you guys all so much for supporting me, and if you're not subscribed already, please consider subscribing and turning on bell notifications. Thank you guys. I love you. Have a great day and be a good person. Bye.